I just started off with something very simple that I knew that I could pull off for you, no matter if I had 105-degree temperature, a missing leg would be okay, not a missing limb, that would not be good for timpani. But that was the first thing I played was the coda to the first movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Now, I played that for you because Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is a very popular symphony to hear. It's one of the great pieces of our repertoire. Practically, for many of you in college or in high school that are going to audition for a summer festival or a small university or a large university, the Beethoven excerpt is usually, if it's not specifically asked, it's fair game for you to study and play to show that you have studied some classical repertoire. You may have some experience behind the instrument. So I started with that for those two reasons. The second thing I played, you won't know at all because I made it up. Well, not really. It's the exposition of a piece that I call Celtic Mashup, which that's the first theme, and just to show that you can do some pedaling. So even on equipment that's new to you, once you get used to the range of the drum, you can change notes, and that seems to be a subject that gives people some concern on the timpani, is how to manage note to note. So there's lots of great exercises to do that. Based on that concept, I thought what would be a fun thing to do to be to make a piece that required me to pedal in a melodic way. And I did a little rhythmic, slight harmonic accompaniment in one hand. It was really easy just to kind of fill it out a little bit. The theme of that is from an old hymn called King's Fold. And it's also the theme used by a composer, English composer, Ralph Vaughan Williams, in a piece called "The Suite from Dives and Lazarus." And that is a biblical quote, but he uses the King's Fold theme in that. So I'll just play the theme by itself with some nice soft ballads, and it sounds like this. So that's a subject of pedaling notes. Let's put that on the back burner for a moment, and let's go all the way back to the beginning. How many people here? Let me get an age breakdown of who you are. How many college students do we have here? Raise your hand. And how many high school students do we have here? Fabulous. Okay, about almost equally split. High schoolers have it like you. Any grade schoolers? Grade school? All fabulous. Now that's something I don't usually get at these talks. That's really fabulous. I'm really glad that you grade schoolers are here, because in anything in life, music being no exception, knowledge is power. Okay, having the right information, even no matter how small that information is, it can be something really, really simple and doesn't seem very important at the time, that can set you on a positive trajectory, perhaps for the rest of your life. So getting good information as young as possible is always great. Now, getting good information any time of your life is always a good thing. It's not age specific. I really like it now when I'm doing something kind of dumb. Someone turns me around and says, you might want to think about it this way. Oh, like the world goes on. Thank you for the correction. I will move on like this now. So for the grade schoolers and high schoolers, in your last program, here we are January, I know you were very busy in the fall and you all had probably a holiday concert. How many people have been able to rotate behind the timpani and get some time on the drums, some experience behind it? Raise your hand if you've had some experience on the drums. Okay, so I know what's going to happen now. So at every concert that comes by, it's programmed at your school, how many people have never rotated to behind the timpani, covered the timpani part? Raise your hand if you've never covered a part. Okay, great, that's good to know. All right, college students, how many of you have really covered some timpani? Yeah, should, well I will, because I said some. And how many have not, how many of you have not actually covered a part in ensemble yet? I mean like orchestra or wind ensemble. I don't mean percussion ensembles. Okay, great. All right, well it's not, to really succeed at any instrument, I'm a firm believer that it's best if we don't cloud the waters with too many complicated things. I also know through personal experience that the best players on any instrument that you can find in the country excel at one thing: fundamentals. They're better at fundamentals for that particular thing. They're better at that than most people. And really, the argument can be made is that's what separates a professional from an amateur, is their control of fundamentals. So I'm going to go briefly through some fundamentals and talk about some timpani theory and play some more for you to help you take wherever you are now as a player and elevate you up a few notches and give you a plan what you should do when you walk up behind these instruments. Now I would encourage you all, when you go back to your schools, that you practice the following method in your percussion section. Percussion is a broad spectrum of instruments you can master. It will do you no good if you get in the habit of always playing the same instrument every concert. Okay? It may be convenient for your band director to let you, who's really good at snare drum, stay on snare drum, and let the person that's good at mallets stay on mallets. That's good for them because it helps them get the piece done, helps rehearsals go quicker because everybody's kind of on the strong suit, right? On that measure, it seems successful. But I will challenge you that that's a fallacy, okay? Go home, play the instrument you don't get time on. You should all get time on the mallets because you won't get better at it unless you have a chance to stand and practice it. If you've never played timpani, if you've got somebody that plays timpani and they're considered the best timpanist in your school, please rotate with them, make them go play mallets, and you take one song. And bring this concept up to your band director, and there's very few that will resist that, okay? You owe it to yourself to have experience on every aspect of the percussion section for your own development, all right? So try that game when you get home, all right? So, timpani basics. It's the one instrument, the percussion section. It is a drum. It has a drum head. It's shaped different than the rest, and it actually produces a pitch, as you just saw. So the traditional educational route for all percussionists tended to take this trajectory. We all start on snare drum so that we get our hands to move. That's the basic mechanics of percussion playing. Here's the hinge, make the hand go up and down. We exercise the muscles in the arm. We pull these muscles, the hand goes up. We pull these muscles, the hand goes down. We're just a puppet, okay? So up and down. Until you can kind of go up and down, okay, you're going to have a little bit of difficulty playing with any kind of fluidity or comfort on any percussion instrument. So we start everybody on snare drum, and I would agree with that. And then slowly we add in the mallet instruments so that you can understand melodic, linear, melodic thinking, harmony, some piano background was always valuable for any musician, but in particular the keyboard. And then it always seems the last thing to come around is timpani. And here's why. I'm not saying I'm in agreement with this, but here's the challenges. When you can match a pitch, someone plays a pitch on an instrument, any pitch, and you can match that in some way, singing it, that's called audiation. So, this pitch here that I played, let's sing that back. I heard this, did you hear? La. Sing it with me. Very good. Okay, how about this pitch? Fabulous. Very good. And if you feel a little subconscious about doing that, I understand that. It's a strange thing. Some people don't like the sound of their voice, and they're inhibited and slightly embarrassed to sing in front of other people, even hum, right? Up and down. All right, so when you're by yourself, please do that. Go up to the vibe or the marimba, smack a note, and see if you can match it with your voice. All right? That's called audiation. You need to hear these notes in your mind. Timpani requires you to audiate, because you need to find the space between notes, and you need to hear the notes in your head first before you apply it to the drum. So, lesson number 1 in timpani playing. First of all, here's your timpani stick. Use the fuzzy end. Lesson 1. Everybody got that? Okay, good. Lesson 2. Always tune up to a note on the timpani. And this is for the very simple reason that a timpani head is, of course, a circle. It goes over the bowl, over the lip of the bowl. But imagine a guitar player. They're always like, boing, 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 boing. They always tune a string from the bottom up. And the reason being is that if they tune down, and as soon as they hit the note, it goes flat. Now a timpani head, it's also like a string. It has a center. It has 2 ends that the head is pulled over, but it's a string in 360 degrees, all right? And it behaves the same way. If you slide down to a note and you're quietly in the hand because no one wants to hear you tune, so that pitch was there. Okay, came down to the note. I think I'm right. If I compare this with, oh, it dropped a little flat, okay? Because the head had more space to go to relax. And as soon as you lay into it, the pitch goes flat. So if you tune down to a note, you think you're right. As soon as you play, you're wrong. You're out of tune. You're flat. So if you tune up to the note, like a string player would, you've gone from loose to tension when you lay into the drum. Why? How about that? It's the note you thought you had the whole time. Okay? That is if you heard the note right to begin with. All right? So practice audiation in front of an instrument that's already literally tuned at the factory. Once you feel comfortable with that, you don't have to have perfect pitch either. You really don't. What you need is something to produce an accurate pitch. Just the study of timpani, you don't need a lot of sticks. But you do need a tuning fork. This tuning fork is an A. It's what an orchestra tunes to. The oboe player gets an A, all string instruments, and we all tune to this pitch A. In a wind ensemble, they often tune to the note B flat. Go to your local friendly, accommodating music store and buy a very inexpensive tuning fork. I've had this one since I was 12, and it's still great. It's just 2 pieces of metal that vibrate an A 440 times per second. It's an A440. Listen to it. There's an A. I have listened to this so many times, I can imagine what that's going to sound like when I put it to my ear. And it sounds like this. You can pull me off on the street and say, Eric, what's an A? I'll think about it and go, that's an A. I know where it feels in my chest, but I know what this is going to sound like because I've listened to it so many times. It's a form of perfect pitch. If I can find the A, I can find everything else. you can develop a really good pitch sense over time with habit. The other thing about using a tuning fork is when you have to tune timpani in the orchestra, nobody can hear that but you. Don't use a pitch pipe. That's like a harmonica. You can't be back there when the orchestra or band is doing its thing, and you can't go, hey, back there. Because they're like, the band director's like, oboes, you're really out of tune. And you're like, this is me playing the harmonica. I got the oboe player in trouble, right? Better go work on that reed there, Skippy. Right, so anyway, you don't want to get called out for tuning. Also, when you tune the timpani, there's a debate about hearing accurate pitch, whether you should use the stick or your finger. If you use the stick, the risk that you run is that someone's going to hear you. If you set your drum up well, and you put it in tune with itself, the head, you don't have any spots in the head that are too low, they all match. And the drum is stable. You can tune with your finger, get your head down there, and really listen to what you're doing. And you'll never get the mean look from your director for, Timpani, quit making so much noise back there. All right? Now it's tough when the band is in one key, and you need to modulate to a new key. The gauge can help you, but be able to hear where you're supposed to go without that first, because that helps you practice proper audiation. Okay? So, inexpensive things that you need. Tuning fork. Use it. Start to memorize a pitch. And then from there, learn your intervals. You can find other pitches from that, giving you a form of perfect pitch. Really what it is it's really highly refined relative pitch. You can find a pitch relative to another one accurately. And check yourself against an instrument that's tuned. Okay, so technique-wise, you have a choice, timpani, of doing fun things. Lesson 1, use the fuzzy end. Lesson 2, tune up to the notes so that you stay in tune when you start to play. Those two things will really get you far. Lesson number 3, do we play palm down or do we play thumb up? Two techniques exist. You can play either one. You'll end up getting a slightly different sound out of the drum depending on what you do. The most important thing is no matter what you do, don't play down into the drum. Get off the head. And don't stay down there and then lift late. Okay? Way up. Not lift it. Way after the fact. Get off the surface of the head. Let the instrument ring open up. If there's one word you take away from this class, it's fuzzy. No. It's the word lift, okay? Because that one word transcends not just timpani, but of course the xylophone and the marimba and snare drum, okay? Does the metal come back on the marimba when you throw it down? Not too well, so you have to take it away. That's lift. Snare drum, does everything we do require us to bounce and dribble the stick on the head? A lot of it does, diddles and things like that, and throw them down, let them bounce twice. But could you do that on a pillow? Not easily, but you can get notes out of the pillow. Go home and try to do a double stroke roll on a pillow, right? First page of stick control on a pillow. You'll feel some new muscles developing in your forearm because you have to lift. Guess what? That's what you should feel. And when you're on the drum, you should be lifting. It'll feel like it takes right off, like you've got super balls on the end of your sticks. All right? Timpani, we have to lift like crazy. You don't want to be playing down into the drum. You do have to hit the drum. And sometimes you have to hit the drum really, really hard. It gets sensitive to how long you stay on the head. The longer you stay down, the harsher sound you're going to get. All right? So I tend to play thumb up. And here's why. When I was in high school, I played what was called a unified grip. I had one grip. I played everything this way. I went to the mallets, and I played my scales, and practiced all that stuff, my arpeggios. I went to the snare drum, and I played match grip. I played my buzz roll, my double stroke rolls, and all my rudiments and stick control, and all of my parts. And then I went to timpani, and I did the same except for rare occasions, okay? None of this. Okay? Don't play in the middle of the head. That should be lesson 2. Don't play in the middle of the head. Middle of the head is the node, and it gets this sound. Don't. Okay, that's the point from which the head is being pulled in every direction simultaneously. It gets a bad, dumpy sound. There's only one piece that I know of in the orchestra repertoire that requires you to do that, and that's George Gershwin's American in Paris. It has a spot where you have to play. On the middle, he wanted just a drummy sound. Boy, did he get it. He knew how to get it. Timpani, we play about 3 to 4 inches from the edge and stay between the 2 tuning lugs in front of you, okay? I play now thumb up, which allows me to really lift. If I play flyby, like I'm on a Disney float, hi, it's a small world, right? There's this nice little princess rotation, prince in my case, and a rotation like this that allows me to lift like crazy. All right. Now, if I keep my hand down, I can lift. It's a little bit more work against gravity, but I can only go so far before I have to use my arm to lift up. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's lots of people that play what we say, palm of your hand, palm down. Okay. I play thumb up, which some say is French grip. Although this technique really came out of Germany. So, I don't know, we'll just say French grip. It's not French specific, okay? Don't tell a French person that, they'll argue with you. They'll complain about the direction of your drums. That's this American system. Oh yeah, we did it first. Yeah. Okay, all right. All right, so here's how we lift. I would start every day with another item that you should have besides your tuning fork, a really good metronome. A really good metronome that's loud. Now your cell phone has lots of lovely apps. Those apps are only as loud as your speaker on your phone is, and it wears your phone battery out, so you always have to recharge your phone. They're great. They're very handy to have to check in if you need a metronome quickly. But it's best to have a metronome that has a very you don't need all that. It's really loud, the loudest one that you can get. It doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles on it. All right. So I will put metronome happens to be at 90. And I will practice just one hand at a time. Not moving. I'm trying to do the work. I can double it. And yes, I am coming in contact with my body. That way I know that I have my speed up is the same as my speed down. Okay, now if I lift it really quick, I get doobie, where I'm really going crazy. Okay, and if I'm lazy, I get badu, which is I'm not lifting at all. The other hand. In front of a mirror to make sure that my hands are in the same plane, my sticks are coming up the same height, and I'm listening 100% of the time. Don't just watch and feel your hands. Look at what you're doing and listen like crazy. That's step 3. 99, 100, okay, another 200 notes, and then hands apart. Nothing should be different between the hands. You're just alternating at this point. Right hand lead. About what you want to do neurologically. You don't like to lead with the left, but if you practice it, And that is the beginning of the roll. I'll take my metronome up higher, and where a roll really starts to sound good, alternate notes, is by the time you get to about 116, and you're playing 16th notes to that. That's when like your low F's and G's really start to come through. About here. That's probably a pretty good F. You want your hands as even as possible. So that's a very technical type of exercise, right? It's all hand-to-hand, single strokes. Just get on the drum and practice them. Now, who can tell me, different notes on the drum, each drum has a range of about a fifth that it can cover. Do we roll the same speed on every note, on every drum? Okay. And I'm seeing people shaking their head, no, that's correct, no. Notes that are really high and under a lot of tension require a fast roll. Notes where the head is looser do not require as fast a roll, they require a slower roll. So when you're on a 13-inch piccolo snare drum and it's tuned sky high and you have to do a buzz roll, you have to roll at a certain speed using the buzz per hand. You're moving right pretty quick. When you're rolling on the bass drum over here, you don't have to go to get it to go, right? It's too much, it's too many notes. It crowds the head, it doesn't get the results you want. The larger a membrane, the head being a membrane, the larger it is, the slower you roll. And even if it sounds slightly beady to you, you don't want to go so slow that it sounds rhythmic, obviously, but you can just get that thing to hum, even if it sounds a little beady to you. It doesn't to somebody 30, 40, 50 feet away. Always play for your audience. So don't roll so fast on the timpani. If I have to play, there's an A, read line wise, there's an F, flat. So if I'm playing an F, my speed might be this. Faster. And you have everything in between, so I might have to go to get the same kind of sound requires a different speed. We don't need to go into it any more than that, other than that, you know, as I just told you, the membrane, the size of it, and the tension that it's on per note requires a certain speed. When I was in school one day, being the geek that I am, I decided to try to figure out what the perfect speed was for every note on every drum. And I made a chart. I know, they're laughing. I was like, oh, D on the 26 is 129 to the 16th. It's like where it goes, oh, what's C? Oh, no, that's 126. Every click's different, right? Now, all right, so that's just a story to tell you, yeah, you can get a little obsessive about that stuff, but it illustrates the point. Don't roll the same speed on every note. Be sensitive to what the note is sounding like. And what was the most important word we learned today? Lift. Yeah, right, fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
Okay, so once you can audiate pitch, what's our time looking at 18 minutes. Okay, so once you can audiate pitch and you feel comfortable that you can match an A, you don't have to pull it out of the air like I did to go to the instrument, pull the vibraphone up next to the timpani, check a note, tune a note. Tune from below, tune up, get two sticks that hopefully have enough felt on them to match. One of the sponsors today, Evans Heads. I enjoy having Evans Heads on my drums. They sound really, really good. They go on easily. They clear up really nice. And what I mean by clearing is that's when every spot of the drum sounds like every other spot. Okay? That's called clearing a drum head. You have to do it on snare drums, bass drum to an extent, and big time on timpani because you're producing pitch. If there's a flaw, you got one lug up too high or too low, you get a pitch bend. If there's a lug that's too low, when you hit the drum, it'll go boom, then come back up to the pitch you want in its decay. If it has a sharp spot, like somebody cranked it up, it'll go bow, drum to the decay. That'll give you an indication if something's off. Put your wallet or something in the middle of the drum. Move around the drum and check each spot and see if it's like dee dee do do dee dee do do. Oh my goodness. It's that you make them all sound the same. Have your band director or your instructor help you with that. You can keep a chart on the chalkboard in the room, like draw the drum, draw all the lugs up there and say, today we thought that that lug was really low. We took that lug up 1/4 turn and draw it up there. You may both come in the next day and go, let's check it out. Dee, 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 da, da, da. Oh, wow, that's really high. What were we thinking yesterday? I don't know. We heard something, we thought it was low, it really wasn't. Yeah, put it back where it was, erase that. You never have to be lost hearing a timpani, okay? You can all do that in your schools now, but it's kind of tricky. It takes some time to develop your ear. So you have got your sticks with equal fuzzy ends. You have practiced your notes. You're like, I can pretty much roll down on a note and not go. Certainly not. Not in the middle of the head. Okay? All no notes, right? You're pretty good now. You're like, okay, now I've got 4 drums. How do I move around? Right? It's kind of. So first of all, lay off the Taco Bell. It's not helpful. Stay trim so that you can spin. Now, I like to sit when I play for the following reason. My feet are always on the pedals, and if I hear anything out, I can immediately adjust the pitch of the drum. So you never see it going on, but I'm playing with my hands, and I'm constantly listening and tuning the drum, if I have to, okay? Here's why. In any band or orchestra, they don't stay in tune 100% of the time. Beginning of rehearsal, they come in and they get warmed up. Instruments are cold. They're flat. As soon as it warms up and you get enough air or whatever for the instrument, pitch goes up. Then the lights have been on in the rehearsal hall for a while. Everybody's really screaming on this piece. Pitch is going higher and higher. You're not the same as when you started either. So you have to always constantly listen and match the pitch that's around you 100% of the time. So sometimes, and there's disagreement between families of instruments. You may have to be a little high for one person and a little low for another. The fact is, you just have to keep your ears wide open to adjust to that. But if with your feet on the pedals, you can make that adjustment all the time, right? Just like the trombone player has a slide, you can make adjustments on the spot. A string player is listening and is making changes on the spot with the finger as soon as they hear something out. Brass players, amateur, they're blowing that instrument into tune. They hear when it's not right. You're listening, you're playing, your feet, you're juking the drum right when you need to stay in tune with everybody around you. Okay, even if they don't always agree. Same thing works for time. Listen to the motor of the band. Some people rush, some people drag, sometimes you have to play it right down the middle. Be the best advocate for your music director. It's like he's pitcher, you're catcher. Together, you drive the band, all right? That's kind of your job, if you hadn't ever thought of it that way. And that's not some sort of self-important, egotistical thing to say. When you sit behind the timpani, you're behind an instrument that orally has a lot of control over the ensemble. And, like Luke Skywalker, you can use your force for good or for evil. Okay? Do it for good, please. Don't go to the dark side. You can be a destructive force and pull a band way off the mark, ensemble-wise. Be right with your director and help the band stay together when it's your turn to play something. So, moving around the drum, pick your beating spots. The number one issue I see with students I've taught over the years is poor stick placement on the drum. If you're going to play 3 or 4 inches off the edge of the drum, and you're going to stay in between those 2 lugs, okay? You need to do that for every drum. So when you rotate to the bottom drum, without looking at your director, you go to the roll here, look down, your stick should be right there, and all the way around. So always bring the drums to you, and then practice moving around the drums. A simple exercise is starting with the right hand on your right drum, starting with 3 notes, triple lift. So right, left, nail that gating spot. I'm going to be right in the pocket. Okay? Orient yourself forward and then don't look. Okay, skip drums. Just here. Skip along. Guess who needs to practice? This guy, yeah. Woo. Don't want to get over there today, all right? Maybe I need to pull the drum in a little bit. So I'm catching, it's not right where I think it's supposed to be. So bring the drum to you, it's not going to get any better. Okay, so that way you can move around. That allows you to play things from the repertoire. You can all YouTube Symphonic Metamorphosis by Paul Hindeman. Okay, other pieces move around across the drums. There you go. Here's one that really moves around. It's a piece for strings, chamber group, and timpani, and percussion by a Swiss composer, Frank Martin. And it has a lovely timpani solo in one spot that goes like this. To get used to pedaling, coming all the way back full circle to what we started with, don't be afraid to just sit there and try to just play one note and then a scale. I'll show you some books. First of all, every book you should have in your, how many minutes? 8 minutes, great, perfect. Books you should own. George Lawrence Stone, Stick Control. Find it in most music stores. You think it's for snare drum? It is, of course. Right, but you can use it on a timpani too, for hand control. Oh, really? I can apply some snare drum exercises to timpani? Bet you can. One of the hardest things is to play quiet on any instrument. So I will take a towel, put it on the middle 2 drums, and be really mean to myself and take these little leather sticks, wood core with leather, and I'll check my soft chord control with on a drum with a muffled drum. Let's just do this one. Okay? Because to have a nice soft roll, you want to be even. Okay, so I'll start with one hand stick control. I'll play all the doubles. All those ones on the first page and maybe in the next 2 chapters of the book. the odds are you can hear every single note. That's what you want to do, because when you pull out your fuzzy end, it helps hide you, but you know you have really good control over your long, soft bow. Okay? So don't be afraid to use stick control all the time. You should be playing stick control loud on a snare drum, and you should be also playing snare drum super, super ridiculous soft using stick control. Okay, so that's one book. You have multiple uses for stick control. You should own it. Good timpani books for all of you beginners. You should have the Saul Goodman Timpani Method. It's an older book. It's great. There's so many exercises in there. It's super. All right? Now, there's lots of books that are like that. You can find some good solos in The Solo Timpanist by Vic Firth. Yes, he has a ginormous stick company. But yes, he was the timpanist of Boston Symphony for many, 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 many years. He wrote a great book with lots of timpani solos in it. Super stuff for your state Ohio Day of Percussions or anything like that for your school contests. I'm sure they're on the list. Okay. For the college guys, you can use the B&Es, Richard Klockreiner method book. There's two books, book 1, 2, and 3. This is book 1. It's pretty easy. 2 and 3 are more fun. And then all timpanists should study the orchestra repertoire, because that's where our instrument is really exercised to its best effect. It's the orchestra repertoire. So you want to find out all you can about those pieces. The classic overtures by great composers. Great to sit down, study this music, and watch the part, and go try to play it on the timpani. All of the romantic symphonies of Schubert, Mendelssohn, Schumann, Brahms, Dvorak, and Tchaikovsky. And even if you haven't listened to some stuff, as you listen to these pieces, stuff will pop out at you that you'll recognize. There's things that you know that you don't even know you know it, because they pop up in commercial music and familiar themes that are kind of in our ear. And of course, the classic symphonies of Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven. So I made it my business, college students, to know all the repertoire in those books. Because wanting to be an orchestra timpanist, I wanted to make sure when those things come up on our schedule, I'm not learning them for the first time. And more contemporary, harder things, 20th century orchestra studies for timpani, annotated by Alan Abel. This is everything that comes after the Romantic symphonies. Lots of crazy stuff, such as Samuel Barber's Meditation in Medea's Meditation and Dance of Vengeance, which is a great piece. It doesn't get enough play, but it requires pedaling and mixed meter counting. And it's a great piece to look up. Over me, when I was all of your age, was you have the internet. It didn't exist, okay? I don't think my parents even owned a computer until I was well out of college, and then it worked off MS-DOS and had a black screen with like white letters on it, lots of code. It was very confusing. You are one click away from any bit of information that you want to find. You want to Google timpani. Oh my goodness, there's so many styles of timpani that exist on the internet, different theories of playing. Watch them all. Nobody's wrong. 10 different people will have 10 different solutions. I like to sit when I play. I like to play thumb up and rotate. A handy thing, you're like, why is there an empty can there? Empty can's like, if you want your hands to work right, grab any container like this and rotate like that. Like, ooh, I really feel that working. Yeah, if that feels really weird, well, do it 100 times and it won't feel so weird. And that's the beginning of an awesome timpani stroke. We don't have to get any more complicated than that. Just do that, rotate a whole bunch until you get tired. Like, wow, I feel a lot of stuff going on there. Right? That's the wave I was talking about. Put a stick in your hand and go bada 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 between your leg and your chest, and go to the timpani and pow, lift, and you will immediately improve your sound. If you use the fuzzy end, if you don't play the center of the timpani head, if you do single stroke rolls, if you pick the proper beating spot, and you can hear the pitch that you're trying to do, and you tune up to the note. Right? Listen to your friends and study music. Become a musician, not just a drummer. Listen to all types of music and try to enhance any ensemble that you're playing with. Right? The right volume, the right placement rhythmically. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I just threw at you today? Sir?
When you're playing elementary and you have to bend up to the pitch, so doing something kind of busy, how do you manage that?
If I'm playing something kind of busy and I'm coming up to the pitch?
Yeah, when you're doing the foot on the drum and tuning the melody, how would you manage?
To manage just quickly going from note to note? What you want to try to do is you want your foot to get, as you're playing the note, you want it to get right there. Like no if you kind of go between a note, that's called a glissando. You want to go so fast that you don't hear that it just goes ba, ba. It requires quick ankle action. So what you do is when you practice, let's say you start with a step, you know, da, 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 and you just practice on whatever pitches you want on any drum. Bang, bang, bam, bam. Sometimes you'll miss. Ba, ba, and you get glissandos in there. But after a while, you're like, no, I want to hear it just like the marimba. Bam, 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 bam. Once you start to feel where that note is on your drum, you can get there really quick. Then change the interval. Go a little farther and then down, 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 down. Then play the notes in succession. Bing, 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 bing. You see how I'm doing it really fast with my hand? That's what you do with your foot. And you avoid glissandos, and then you just learn where the note is. Kind of like a bass player. I know the note is there through muscle memory. You have to establish some muscle memory in the feet. Okay? Good question. Yes?
The pedals, are pedals like piano pedals where you have to lift every measure? Or
No. The piano pedal is a dampener pedal that either when you push down, it lifts a damper off of all the strings to let them ring. When you let the pedal go, that entire structure falls. Okay? The pedals on the timpani work to increase tension all the way, incremental tension on the drum, back and forth. Understand that one thing that really confuses people when they adjust their timpani, if you go into your school and you try to get a high note on your timpani and the pedal keeps going back, and it's like your band director's going, no, it's up, the note's higher. You keep getting there, and as soon as you take your foot off, it goes back. What that means is that there's a spring underneath the drum that's too loose. The head is a spring, right? A spring is something that you apply tension to either by stretching it or compressing it. When you let it goes back to zero. A drum head, if you take it off here and hold it up, it'll be completely slack, right? It wants to go slack. We have to put it on the drum and keep it at attention, right? There's a spring underneath the pedal that if the tension of the spring matches the kind of tension in the head, wherever you put the pedal, the note will stay. The spring tension matches the inherent tension in the head. When seasons change, when I came into these drums today, it's January, it's very dry. Plastic will shrink a little bit by about a quarter tone. And the drums were really, really hot because Probably in the winter, probably in the summertime when it's really humid, they're awesome. But in the winter, the head shrunk. So I had to tune them down a little bit. Now when summer comes and it's really humid, it's 85 and 95% humidity, even the plastic will relax and it'll feel sloppier. We'll have to tune the drums up. When the heads get out of whack like that, sometimes they don't hold their notes. So when you go into school, if you adjust them for marching band in the summer, they may be loosened up so that the heads are kind of looser. And in the wintertime, suddenly, the drum's much tighter. You can't keep your high notes anymore. You have to back off the spring a little bit so that it'll, or you have to increase the spring so that the pedal can hold the note there. There's not enough power in the pedal. Sir?
Actually, would that be done, how do you go about setting the bass pitches
For everything, I make sure that my drums, if I put the toe down, the highest note on the drum, that they're already set to a preset note. I tune the tops of the drums and I forget about whatever's down there at the bottom. Because some notes are so low, they're off. They're not notes you want to play on the drum anyway, right? Like this drum could probably go down to a G, but I would never play a G. It's too low. It would just flat, flat, flat. It would sound really gross. But I might want to play a C, but that's not all the way at the bottom. But I want that drum to go to an F sharp. So I will tune the drum with the toe down to get an F sharp. Then I always know if I need an F sharp. There it is. It's preset. This drum I like to go to a B flat. This drum I like to go to a D. This can go to F sharp or G depending on the size of the drum. And this note I like an A. That's the top line of the bass clef staff. The top note. Everything below that, anything that's beyond the range of good. Like I'll use this drum for E to A. I'll use this drum for C to G or D to F sharp. I'll use this drum. You should get it. It's A is the money note. G is okay. F is kind of floppy. But I like it to go to a C sharp or a D. So I set the top for that. This drum can go to a D and sound pretty good, but it should be able to go up to a B flat nicely. So I set the top notes and then see what I get. All right. Sometimes when you change heads, you put new heads on the drums, you lose a little range off the drum temporarily while the head stretches. Like you've got like a huge range off those old heads that have been on the drum for 15 years. You put new heads on there and you're only getting like a fourth. What happened to my notes? After over time, the heads will stretch out and you'll increase the range. Okay. Set your top notes first, and then put your gauge accordingly. Okay? Any other questions? We're at time, right? Yeah. We're out of time? Thank you so much.